Hey, Twisted listeners, I'm Cindy,
And I'm Diva.
and this is Twisted Listeners, a podcast about murder.
And Liz.
And we're back this week with hunting murders. I couldn't remember because it's been
Yes.
you guys, it's been the most fucking crazy weekend. I'm gonna start with my trivial by comparison shit. I found
That's
it
some trivia.
I mean, it's terrible, but I found out that my cat
Yeah.
has a super rare, super deadly disease that can only be cured with treatment that I have to buy like on the DL. Like I had to download like a secret app and like do all this stuff because it's not FDA approved in America or there's something about a patent. But anyway, so that was my journey, was like having to drive to random places to like pick up vials of medicine that I have to stab him with for like 84 days. Anyway, it's called FIP and it used to be a death sentence for cats, but now it's not, but it's very costly and you have to be like really careful about ordering it and it's this whole fucking thing. So anyway, we're a day late because for me that was what happened. And Diva, do you want to talk about what happened with you?
Yeah, I just like casually had a baby really quick, like 6 weeks early, and that was very cool. He's fine and I'm fine. And Cindy's like, I'm surprised you're here. And I'm like, yeah, me too. I mean, but he's in the NICU. He's fine because he was so early, but he's fine. But I have had a lot of time bleary-eyed and sleepy to research murders. So
Yeah.
why not? I was in the hospital just like chilling with my, my Dateline on, and
Yeah, I was
so
like, should I start seeing if like guest hosts want to come? And she was like, no, like I can do it. So Diva's here, but we don't know exactly when he's coming home and what that's going to look like. So there still may be a break where Diva's not present. Weirdly, she's here right now. So
yeah,
but
I am.
we're gonna take it as it comes. So 1 week it might just be me. Maybe for a few weeks. We're gonna see what happens. But congratulations, Diva.
Thank you.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
exciting.
giving
Um,
birth is wild. It's a wild time. It's
yeah,
super weird.
yeah,
You know, you did
I
it.
do. Yeah, I did it. So we all have our own fun little birth stories, and I'm glad that you
Mhm.
are now part of us. You're a
Part of the
mom.
club.
Pretty
Yeah.
amazing. Pretty amazing. The fun's really going to start when he comes home. So I'm excited for you, but I'm also, again, you may want to take a couple or many weeks off. And if you do, that 100% support of me. I'm sure all of the listeners, right, guys? Right, guys?
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, so this is hunting murders, and
hmm
I chose. So you're going to go first, right?
Yes, I'm excited. This is the first thing I thought of when you picked this topic. I was like pretty pumped. Because it's a Dateline and I love Datelines. And again, gave me something to do in the
Yep.
hospital
Mm-hmm.
is watch this. So this is the story of Mary Beth Harshbarger.
Whoa.
And we're gonna take a minute for that last name to process that because it's really something. Um,
Harshbarger. Yeah, that's a lot.
Harshbarger. Yeah, I want to know. Like, I started to do some analysis in my head of like, is this related to burger? Like, is this German? Is this Dutch? Like, it's just such a weird. Anyway,
Like, what
Harshbarger. It's
is
weird.
it? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
it's definitely like a European name that became stupid through Americanization. I
Yes,
think.
as
Yeah,
many things do.
yeah. So this happened in 2006. Mary Beth met her husband Mark Harshbarger, and they got married in 2001. They had their family together in very rural eastern Pennsylvania, specifically Meeshoppen, which as of now has a population of 342 people. So that's what I mean by rural.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Itty bitty teeny
it's like
tiny.
borderline Amish country, I think.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Um, Mary Beth had a daughter from her previous marriage, and then they had a son together in 2006. So they have two small children, and they're pretty well off. I guess Mark is a contractor. Like, I don't know what that means, but like in the construction sense, perhaps.
Yeah, when you're a
Um,
contractor, it's
yeah,
like you're the big boss of like the construction kind of stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So and then they're living in the middle of nowhere. So they live well enough to have like a giant, house and all that kind of
Mm-hmm.
shit.
Okay.
And Mary Beth and Mark are like very into hunting.
Fun.
And we might talk about this throughout this week, but I don't love hunting. Here's the thing. If you're indigenous or like you're hunting for food, I'm not gonna say shit on that and like
Right.
you eat the animals. But if you're hunting to take a picture with it and make it
Or like
into a
for like a
rug,
pelt or something. Yeah, like that's like
then I kind of take an issue with it. Yeah. I
I
mean, like,
yeah, that's
it's
fair.
kind of stupid.
Yeah, if you're
Um,
doing it for like clout or whatever, like fuck you essentially.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and especially if you're a big game hunter and you're going to just kill an elephant, like fuck off and
Mhm.
die straight to hell. Like
Yeah.
honestly. But anyway, so these people are really, really into hunting. It's just like beyond me. I couldn't do it. I'm one of those hypocrites who like loves to eat meat, but I could never kill an animal or like even watch an animal be killed on like TV. I can't handle it. But I'm a
Yeah.
fucking hypocrite.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, so Mary Beth and Mark are also really good at competitive shooting, like like far away targets. They're part of a like rare club, like the 1,000 foot like shooting club. I forget the exact name, but they can shoot things accurately from 1,000 feet away. So keep
Wait,
that in
a
mind.
1,000 feet?
Yes,
This is just stupid. Like, why even fucking do it? You know what I mean?
they're just really good at shooting accurately. I mean, I think that's fun actually, like shooting if you're not killing things, like just it's kind of like archery or whatever, you know, you're like just
Yeah.
proving that you have like a really good sense of precision, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, so they have tons of precision long distance rifles and guns, like bajillions of guns, of course. They often planned kind of hunting trip vacations for them and their family. And in 2006, they brought the kids and Mark's brother a kind of family trip here on a hunting trip to Newfoundland, Canada, which is one of their favorite destinations for hunting.
Mhm.
Um, when they're there, they stay at a fancy pants hunting lodge, and where they go on kind of hunting excursions with a group. And together they kill 2 caribou, and Mark also by himself kills a black bear.
Oh, why?
Um,
What?
yeah, that's my feeling too. Is why, why, why?
That's fucked
Uh,
up.
yeah, and I don't even love seeing the picture of them like posing with this dead black bear. I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong with you? I don't know. It's just really gross to me.
Yeah.
Um, and strange. So, folks at the lodge who met them on the trip reported that the couple and the family seemed very happy. There was nothing like odd to report from the days around this.
Mhm.
But on one night of the hunting trip, the family and their hunting guide set out on a excursion to go hunting, basically around kind of sunset, around twilight, but it's still light out and it's raining. And Mark and the guide went out into the woods and said they were going to scare out a bear if possible. So they're hoping to get another bear. I guess one wasn't like enough for these weirdos.
Yeah, that's fucked
Um,
up.
and while they looked around and, are doing that, I guess, I'm like, this is so foreign to me. I'm like, why would you do this? Mary Beth parked herself with all of her rifles in the back of their truck as kind of like, I guess, a bear sniper, hoping she's going to see one, right? And shoot it. Um,
Okay.
yeah. Every single thing I say, I'm like, why? Why
Yeah.
though?
I'm not loving this.
Um, Also, it's weird because their small children are there. Like they're like I forget their ages, but they're like pretty little. They're like 8 and like 3 or something at this point.
Right.
Are like chilling in the back of this truck with all these guns. I'm like, that sounds super safe.
Yeah.
Um, and as the guide and Mark were making their way back to where the truck was, the guide apparently stopped to pee. So Mark continues forward on his own.
Okay.
Mary Beth was looking through her rifle scope meanwhile, and she claimed she claimed she saw a bear. And the guide emerges from the woods and asks, "What did you shoot at?" She replies, "I shot a bear. Did I get him?" And the guide is like, "No, you got Mark."
Oh fuck.
So
Wait, how far away
yeah,
was he?
a couple 100 feet. They're like 200 feet away.
Okay, so like you can see like from 200 feet away, you can like make out facial features. Like not like
Yes.
I have terrible eyes and I can like not exactly like, oh, well, they have big lips and an upturned nose, being like, there's eyes,
Mm-hmm.
there's a nose, there's a mouth, that's a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is
Mm.
raining and it's dusk. Okay, whatever.
Okay. So the group, but remember, she's like a
Like a
award-winning,
like
medal-winning
sharpshooter.
long-distance sharpshooter. So
Yeah, yeah, okay. Ugh.
The group goes back to the lodge and calls the police. Mary Beth is reportedly very upset. That night, the RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police,
Mhm.
interview her and she describes what happened as follows. Basically, she said that she saw a black bear coming out of the woods, and she's like was positive about it. And after looking at him through the scope for a moment, she fired, then heard like a horrible scream, and obviously in the moments afterwards realizes what happened when the guide is like, "What the fuck?" Um,
What the fuck?
she had sh- she had shot Mark once in the abdomen and killed him, I think, pretty quickly.
Okay.
Um, she said that she saw this bear with her quote unquote naked eye, meaning like it wasn't behind anything or whatever, like she could clearly
Mhm.
see it.
Yeah.
And she said it was clearly a bear. But then, like a moment later in the interview, she says, "quote I think it was too dark to shoot. I shouldn't have taken the shot."
Okay.
Which, okay,
I mean, listen,
then you
if
did though.
if I know where this is going, so I don't want to defend her, but like nothing that she said right now makes me feel like, oh, she did this on purpose. Like it does sound like she's like confused and like not sure how to answer. And like I feel like I would
Yeah.
probably say and do a lot of dumb shit in this situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are not going on any bear
I'm
hunting
not gonna do
excursions
this.
though, so
No, 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 no. Of course, I wouldn't be in
but
this situation, but like
no,
I'm
no,
just
don't
saying,
hang
like,
out
I'm sure if
with
somebody
guns.
did this by accident, they would be legitimately shocked and probably not like super quick with like exact
Mhm.
answers. But anyway.
Well, I've got some more info, so
Oh, okay.
don't come down on a judgment yet here.
Okay.
Um, so when they ask her about issues in the marriage, she basically says they had the 100% perfect marriage, roses and sunshine. She loved him so much. There was no issues, blah, 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 blah,
Right.
blah. Okay. When they ask her about her life insurance policies, they
Uh-oh.
find out that she had just gotten a big fat one out on Mark for $500,000 just a few months prior.
Mm.
And when they ask, this was the trippiest thing in the world to me. When they ask her if she could get them in touch with like the life insurance like agents in question to like so they could learn more about those policies, she has the phone numbers off the top of her head. And I'm like,
Whoa. Uh-uh.
what the
No.
okay,
No.
maybe she just has like a photographic memory or some shit, but like that's
Right.
weird as hell.
Yeah.
Um, so friends of Mark, let's dig a little more into this relationship here. Friends of Mark reported seeing Mary Beth throughout the years physically assault Mark,
Mhm.
and just be super abusive and angry and hostile towards him. So Mark is like the recipient of a lot of abuse. A lot of different grievances and stories basically come forward from all these different people in their lives after this happened. And according to a lot of people, this is in part due to her diagnosis as being bipolar. And she also
Okay.
has an off and on relationship with a lot of different medications. So sometimes she's doing good, and then sometimes she's off the necessary meds, right? So
Yeah.
she sort of like
I
fluctuates.
feel better, so I stop taking
Um,
them and then I feel worse. And it's like just keep taking
hmm
them. It's not like a
Yeah,
curable
probably
thing. Like
something like that.
yeah. Just speaking from
Report.
experience. Sorry.
Yeah. No, yeah. Reportedly, Mark and Mary Beth worried about her ever having to lose her ability to own guns if she got into like a sticky situation with her mental health because she's obsessed with guns. Like that's their big hobby is shooting and
You don't want
hunting.
to lose that if that's your whole personality.
Yeah. So, but things do get really bad at one point with her mental health, and she actually willingly goes into a psych ward. I guess in some kind of a way that would mean she wouldn't lose her ability to have guns. So it's some kind of like protected thing.
Like
Um,
preemptive or intentional,
yeah.
something that makes it yeah, okay.
She does the homework, yeah. And even though she does apparently go on her own free will, her friends say that she blamed Mark for putting her there, and that's how she kind of looked at it. So I'm not sure if I kind of imagined it. I never saw this anywhere, but I kind of imagined it as him being like, "You have to go, or else I'm leaving," or like kind of that kind of thing, or like
You
he
go
kind of maybe
willingly
he did.
or I'll call the police and they'll take
He
you
might.
and then you'll lose it or something
So
like
he
that.
probably in some way put on some pressure, and then she
Right.
decides to do
It
this.
sounds like it, yeah.
Um, but she blamed him for this. She was really resentful, apparently.
Mhm.
And her friends all thought that like she was really, really hanging on to a lot of anger and resentment from that.
Got it. Okay.
A few months prior to Mark's death, after they upped that life insurance policy, or got that new one rather, Mark even joked to his friends that he's worth more now dead to her than he is alive,
Ooh, okay. That's not good.
which is a casual joke you make when you're
Mm-hmm.
happy in your relationship.
Yeah.
Two of Mark's friends also came to authorities. I'm not sure if they were there for the same instance or if Mark actually said this twice, which would be even wilder. But they said
Yeah.
that he told them that he straight up thought Mary was going to shoot him, and he said, "quote, and when she does, she wouldn't miss."
So, like, they are both just kind of openly talking about how this is going to happen.
Yeah, he's like,
I mean, he's like,
she
let's
would
go
love it.
hunting.
Mark's like, she would love if I was dead, and she's definitely gonna shoot me with great accuracy. Yeah, let's go shoot bears.
What the
So,
fuck? This is
mm-hmm.
brilliant. This is so,
Yeah.
like, oh God. Okay, whatever. Go on.
After Mark's death, also, his brother Barry Harshbarger, also very quickly moved in with Mary Beth, saying it was there to be there. He was there to be there for the kids, but Barry's wife left him because of this, and it was pretty obvious to everyone in the family that they were in a relationship.
Okay. This is just so
Um,
messy and terrible.
Very messy. Mary Beth also cut off contact between her kids and Mark's entire family.
Whoa, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
That's fucked up.
Which could be just her retaliating because they are, as we'll talk about, blaming her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so Mark's whole family right away is like, absolutely the fuck not. Both because of what they knew about the relationship. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
she killed him on purpose. This is
Right.
all a ruse.
This is intentional. Yeah.
This is a ruse to disguise a murder, essentially. And they also say that because she was an insanely good shot, like this is her seeing things accurately through scopes, it's like her entire life,
That's like what she does. Yeah.
She's
There's no
extremely good
way.
at it. Yeah.
Right.
So Mary Beth, at some point, I think here calls in local news in Pennsylvania to run a story on a memorial bench that she puts in her yard for Mark, which is like really weird to me to do. But it seems like really a
Aw.
PR move for her. It's because it's an
Yeah.
excuse for her to talk about the accusations of the family and in the press against her, and
She's like
to
trying to
talk
get
about them
ahead
on.
of it kind of thing.
Yes.
Got it.
So talking about it on TV, and she says essentially how, it's all wrong and Mark wouldn't be happy with with these accusations, and like she's, trying to paint this rosy picture and say how much she loved her husband, et cetera, et cetera. But I
Right.
just wanted to mention that because I think it's a weird thing to do, and also because her demeanor in that interview is super weird.
Mm,
I can't really explain it, but it's like very stilted and it's like not organic. And there's like also she's got a face that's like I can't explain it, but it's a little like permanently startled.
I
You know
knew
what I
you were
mean?
gonna say that. I knew you were gonna
Yeah,
say that.
she's got that like a little bit of intense, like permanent, like
Yeah.
intensity paralysis on her face. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's a little weird to me.
Yeah.
Um, So investigators dig more also into Mary Beth's past and find that she did also have an assault charge from 1992. So that's
Okay.
interesting.
I mean, yeah. It's interesting, but it's also like, I don't know.
Just throw it on the pile with everything else.
Yeah.
So in May 2010, after several years had been spent putting together the case, the RCMP arrested Mary Beth for not murder, but quote, causing death by criminal negligence.
Okay.
Which, despite not being proper murder, it actually could have carried up to a life sentence
Oh
in Canada.
wow. Oh
Yeah,
wow.
so it's a big range. The
Mm-hmm.
prosecution, basically, at her trial, alleges that she, like I said, is a trained shooter. She knew he was in the fucking woods as well and could come out at any moment.
She knew
Um,
better, 100%. Start to
yeah,
finish, she fucking knew better.
yeah, and it was interesting too because I guess they're arguing that this meets the definition of not an accident, but criminally negligent. So I guess those are two different things.
Huh.
Um, yeah, it's interesting to me. I guess like which I don't totally understand.
Yeah, I don't
But like I guess
either.
like criminally negligent has the aura of like you knew better, like you
Right.
fucked up.
Right.
Whereas accident is like genuinely it could happen to anyone. Whereas criminally negligent means like no, you made a mistake, like very
Right.
a stupid one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, The defense basically alleges that it's reasonable that she thought he was a bear. They argue that he was hunched over because they can tell from the path of the bullet that he was hunched over
Mhm.
when he was shot. So I don't know why that makes a person look more like a bear, but I guess maybe she couldn't see his face, you know. Um,
Yeah.
she also, her credit, didn't expect him to be coming back alone. So maybe the fact that it was a single form and not two people confused her. Um,
Yeah.
but still, this is a guy with clothes. You know what I mean? Like it's just weird.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Someone said, pointed out he was wearing denim overalls, and it's like, what kind of bear is wearing suspenders? You know,
Mhm.
overalls. Like, ultimately, the charge against Mary Beth is completely dismissed, and she's acquitted and found not
What?
guilty, which I find insane because look, this isn't a murder trial, and like there's a subtext of like intentionality in murder that's kind of throughout the trial, but like certainly this is at least criminally negligent. Like I think it fucking meets that definition for
Mhm.
sure. You
Yeah.
know, like it's weird as fuck to say that it's not that. Um, I don't get it.
Yeah.
So Mark's family gives statements basically being outraged, stating their belief that like they still think she killed Mark with intent, like murder.
Yeah.
And then I found this, it was really interesting too. In 2011, Mark's brother Barry, remember him,
Yeah.
actually got a protection order out against Mary Beth, saying that he was in fear for his life after she had threatened him by pointing a loaded rifle at him.
I mean, it's pretty obvious to me that she killed him on purpose. The fact that they couldn't even
Yeah,
get her for, like, negligence is, like, pretty
it's
fucking wild.
wild. Yeah.
Wild. To me, what that
Li-
means is that whoever was prosecuting did not do a good enough job of explaining how good she was with guns and how good she was with
mhm.
hunting. Because I
Yeah.
could understand if it was, like, some first timer going out to hunt and accidentally shooting somebody, but when it's somebody with, like, years of experience who is, like, particularly good, it just feels like a duh moment kind of, you know?
Yeah. Yes, in a subsequent hearing, that protection order was thrown out, so I would just wanted to give that caveat because you know, maybe Barry was full of shit, I don't know,
I
but,
don't know. I don't know. I feel
I
like
don't know.
she's something's going on.
No, and, like, just her demeanor and her history and background, and, like, I
Yeah.
really think she saw this as a perfect opportunity to get away with murder because, honestly, it kinda is, like, this is very hard to prove, you know, and
Yeah.
there's a reason why they didn't go for murder charges and only for criminal negligence because how do you prove it? Unless she said to someone, like, that she was gonna, you
Right.
know, unless, like, it's very, very hard to prove because this does look like an accident.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I mean, you obviously presented it with a certain amount of bias, but, like, I feel like she
I
fucking did
mean,
it.
if you I'm sorry, like, that's just my feeling. I mean, is it impossible that it was a real accident? No, it's possible, but, like, just I'm just very much on vibes, and, like, if you watch this lady's vibes,
She
she's got
did
a
it.
real
Yeah.
collecting on the life insurance policy on my murdered husband kind of vibe to her,
Yeah.
so,
I feel that.
yeah.
Alright. Well,
It's the
um,
eyes, they're too open.
that's weird she got away with it. Women sometimes
Mhm.
can get away with it a little
Like,
easier in
sure.
some cases, you
Yeah.
know? But, I mean, I don't know. That's maybe not a fair statement, but I said it, so it's too late
I mean,
now.
when you're a wealthy white lady who can afford good lawyers also, that's
Yeah.
kind of not, you know,
Yeah, that's part of it, I guess.
that's helpful. Yeah.
Woof. Okay. That's crazy she got away with it. Well, my case ends very differently, I'll just tell you right now.
Okay.
Are you ready for mine?
I'm ready.
Alright, I'm doing the case of David Lee Fisher and David Wilkey, so it's the case of the 2 Davids.
Oh,
Yes, this actually takes place in 1983, the year of my birth,
nice.
and, it takes place in Bedford County, Virginia, but the people involved actually lived in, Charlotte, North Carolina. So, in I don't know exactly pardon me. Um, I don't know exactly when the 2 people met. It's an older case. There's a lot of information on it, but, like, the timeline isn't great. So, essentially,
Okay.
David Lee Fisher was living and working in Charlotte, North Carolina. He worked for, like a oh my god, what is it called? It's not a morgue, it's like a funeral home. He worked at a funeral home, but what he did was he transported bodies, right? And he just normal guy, lived a normal life, went to coffee shops really often. Like when he wasn't working, he just really liked to hang out in coffee shops. He was really social. He liked to be around people. Um, he was just very like outgoing. He had moved to this area just a few years prior, kind of out of the blue, just kind of showed up on the scene, but very quickly made his way in the city, had lots of friends, lots of, people that knew him and was doing having a normal good life. Now
Okay.
around this time he meets 18, 17-year old David Wilkey. So this is David Fisher's the older guy who's moved there, he's single, and then meets 17-year-old David Wilkey. Now David had left Norfolk, Virginia to come to North Carolina in search of his estranged father. And he was unable to find his estranged father, but he found like his cousin and ended up living with them while working as a short order cook at one of these coffee shops that David Fisher would frequent. So the two of them became close. He also became close with another younger man named what is it? Something Mulligan. I can't Bobby. I want to call him Barry. Bobby Mulligan. And so the three of them were all friends. I think they kind of thought of David as like a father figure. Like he would give David Fisher would give the younger David Wilkey work sometimes working for the funeral home, and eventually he let him move in with him. So they were close enough that he was kind of like almost like a father figure and was taking care of David. So on November 21st, 1983, David, Bobby, another friend, and then two of David Fisher's um, stepsons, who are actually sons of his ex-wife, but with whom he's still close because he was a father figure to them as well while they were growing up. They all went to Bedford County, Virginia to go on a hunting trip. And they, are, I don't know what they're hunting, but all of them are out there. One of David Fisher's younger um, sons goes back to the house. The other one lays down under a tree to like sleep. I don't think he was allowed to like actually go hunting. So the two sons are kind of like not really there, but like one of them is kind of nearby. So David, and Bobby are like out hunting. And Bobby and David, the younger David, kind of get lost out in the woods. And all of a sudden there's the sound of a shot. And
Mm,
Bobby comes running and he's like, I shot David. I shot him. I shot him. So the older David wakes up his son and is like, go run for help. And so his son goes back to the house and calls for help, leaving the older David, Bobby, and the younger David together alone in the woods. Now, when help arrives, the younger David is pronounced dead on the scene. He is no longer alive, and it's a horrible accident. 2 weeks later, the older David reaches out to the younger David's insurance company demanding payment on the life insurance because the younger David had put the older David as the beneficiary on that insurance policy. So this raises a red flag for the insurance. And they're like, hunting accidents are kind of sus. So they come out, they do polygraphs, they do interviews, and they say to the older David, like, hey, this $100,000 policy, I don't think we're going to pay it out to you because, the way that you guys reported that he was dead and what the medical examiner found, like, aren't really jiving. Like, it doesn't really make sense. So the older David pretty quickly is like, okay, they said that he had been really aggressive in wanting the money. And then once they pointed this out, he became more friendly, more willing to negotiate, and they ended up paying him $25,000. Closed the
okay.
case. That was it. So instead of a hundred
Okay.
thousand, he willingly accepted 25,000. Everybody moves on with their lives. 2 years later, Bobby Mulligan, who is now in his early 20s, the one who actually did the shooting, broke down to his mother and told her that he had intentionally shot and killed David Wilkey at the instruction of David Fisher.
Mm,
Now,
okay.
we're going to get into the whys and what's happened. So 2 years, this went as just, it was an accident. It sucked.
Yeah.
We're moving on.
This guy had to confess for it to
He,
be a thing.
yes, he could not get over it. He was so upset with himself. So he confessed. He goes to the police. He tells them the tale. They then come and interview David Fisher. Obviously, they're not just immediately arresting him because this is like a crazy story. You know, it's not just because the guy said he did it doesn't mean that he did. So they interview David Fisher and he's like, I have no fucking clue what Bobby's talking about. It was an accident. I had nothing to do with it. Police are like, okay, totally fine. But then they start looking into David Lee Fisher here, right? Because they're like, well, we believe you, but we got to look into it. First of all, they find that around the time, just a few weeks or months after David Wilkey was killed, David Fisher did in fact pay Bobby Mulligan a lump sum of $7,000.
Okay, there it
And
is. There's the
mhm,
receipts.
yep, when they ask him why, he doesn't really have a good reason. What's more interesting is while they're looking into David Lee Fisher, they realize that his real name is Lehman Curtis Fortner, and that
Whoa, those are all different names.
couple of
Okay.
three names situations here. So
Yeah.
Lehman, who took the middle name Lee, David Lee Fisher,
Oh,
Lehman
got it.
Curtis Fortner, was a man who had lived, I believe, in like the New York area or somewhere in the South, perhaps. I can't remember. It was hard to find information on him because they've tried to cover it up. Um, but he was involved with the mafia, like the mob, and had over 25 different charges against him, had spent a bunch of time in prison. One of the charges was that he had kidnapped his daughter after he and his like wife split up and took her across
Ooh,
state lines to try to like keep her. And I found
ew.
that in an old news article because I looked up his name and that was like literally the only news article that came up. But the timeline fit because it was like 1966 when it happened and he was like 25 at the time. So anyway, this guy had this long string of like arrests and charges and just was in with really bad people. And the reason his name was changed was that he had been arrested and was going to face like 30 years in prison. He turned on all of the like his mob bosses and went into witness protection. So he ended
Okay.
up in witness, and it wasn't like a super high level witness protection because he was still like talking to some of his like family and whatever. Um, but it was enough so that you know he had to change his whole name. He completely moved. That's why he ended up in North Carolina in Charlotte because you know he had to start his life over. So now they're like, all right, this dude's shady as fuck. He did this payment. So they start digging deeper and deeper into things. And what they find out, according to multiple people who were involved that they interviewed, is that when David Fisher took David Wilkey under his wing, he started sort of grooming him, but not in a like sexual way, in a way to make him kind of like do his bidding. So I don't know what the word for that would be, but he's like manipulating him and you know, because David, when he moved in with him, was like 18 years old. He never met his father. He was searching for his father. So he wanted
Yeah,
this
I needs a
father
daddy
figure.
figure like
Yeah,
bad. Yeah.
exactly. So Mr. Fisher here, Mr. Lehman, takes full advantage of this. And what he does is crazy. He gets him to, so they all meet again. They all meet. He met Bobby and everybody at this, at this uh coffee shop and just kind of whatever. So it's like this little scene. And there's a woman there named Bonnie. And she's cute and she's young. She seems to have an interest in David Wilkey, the younger one. So David Fisher tells David Wilkey, "You're gonna date her. You're gonna get her to fall in love with you. You're gonna take life insurance out on her. We're gonna kill her, and we're gonna split
What?
the money." Yes,
Wow. He's like, I like this girl, and then David Fisher's like, this is exactly where I'm going with this. Like,
yes, yeah. So David Wilkey apparently agrees to do this. He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna date her and use her, gain her trust. We'll kill her. We'll get the money." David
oh
Wilkey
my
falls
gosh.
in love with Bonnie. He
Yeah.
sets out to kill her, but then decides he's in love with her. And he tells David
That's
Fisher,
that's a movie plot.
it
That's a movie
is.
plot.
It is. It's
Yeah.
fucking crazy, right? So he's like,
Yeah.
I'm backing out. I'm not doing it. We'll have to figure something else out. This, of course, upsets David Fisher, but he doesn't let on. he's basically doing like that. You know how they make the mob bosses out in the movies to be like, oh, that's fine. I understand. The next thing you know, boom, you're fucking dead. Like,
Mhm.
that's essentially what this motherfucker did. So he tells him, okay, no problem. We'll not do it. We'll do something else. Let's go on a let's go on a like a hunting trip. Like we'll take Bobby, we'll
Yeah.
go bond, whatever. So then he turns to Bobby and he says to Bobby, hey, I have $100,000 life insurance policy out on David Wilkey here. Why don't you kill him and I'll give you a percentage? And he's like, yeah, no problem. Um, that sounds great. So they put this all together and we all know what happened. Now, some of the things about the life insurance policy that kind of alerted the police were that some of the signatures looked forged. So it looked as though his David Fisher basically said that David Wilkey in asked him to be the beneficiary because Bonnie refused to be. It was all David Wilkey's idea and it's just a big misunderstanding and the timing was just terrible, yada yada yada. Now,
Yeah.
according so the tale that David Fisher spins is this. They were just he and David Wilkie and Bonnie were in love. He had nothing to do with it. The hunting trip. He actually says that Bobby Mulligan, Bobby and David were like fighting during the hunting trip, and then Bobby
Yeah.
shot and killed David in
Trying to find
anger.
another motive. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's trying to like because apparently he's saying Bobby was also in love with Bonnie and all this shit. So he tries to spin this big tale. And then in terms of the life insurance, he says well, it was David's idea to get the life insurance. He asked Bonnie to be the beneficiary. She said no. Then he asked me to do it just so that he would have it. And I reluctantly agreed. So they go kind of through all the processes of the insurance and it looks forged and this and that. They can't really decide. When they asked Bonnie, she says, actually, yeah, he did ask me if I would be the beneficiary on his life insurance. And I said no. So it did kind of legitimize what David Fisher was saying. That being said, Bobby came out and testified against David Fisher as part of a plea deal. And the shit that he said about the moments that they were all together alone in the woods is insane. Like,
Okay.
Bobby, so Bobby shoots David Wilkie, and David Fisher comes up and starts like trash talking David Wilkie. Like,
Mm.
you should have fucking done what I said. I'd shoot you in the head
Whoa.
myself. And then he also said, Bobby said, this is so insane to me. He said that David Fisher tried to reach into the wound in David Wilkie's body
What?
to physically stop his heart with his hand. Like, that's how,
What?
like, which to me is like
That's
some gnarly,
stupid.
like, mobster, like, weird movie shit,
Yeah, he thinks
right?
he's like a mob boss. He thinks he's like in a
Right?
movie.
Yeah. It's so fun.
That's really gross and
It's
dumb.
also stupid. Yeah, it's very gross and it's
Yes.
very stupid. But this
Wow.
whole thing is like a great like mob movie premise or like weird like murder
Yes.
movie premise,
Yes.
So anyway, they go to trial. Bobby ends up getting like I think like 20 years, not even because of his cooperation and also like the courts basically were like he was young, he's white.
Mhm.
And in return for his testimony, he got, a very short sentence. David Fisher, thanks to all of the crazy shit that he had done previously, the kidnapping charges, everything else, the double life, he's found guilty and he is sentenced to death. Yep.
Wow.
They
Okay.
actually sentenced him to death. And this man was like with David's family, with his mother, like,
Yeah.
you know, consoling her. He also made her cremate the body. He told her, oh,
Um,
your son's final wishes, like he wanted to be cremated, like that's what he told me. And she said he called her repeatedly to like confirm that he'd been cremated. So this guy is just stone fucking cold. So
yeah, super
anyway,
scummy as hell.
yeah. So he was sentenced to death. He appealed, appealed, appealed. He was sentenced in 1987 and he was put
Okay.
to death in 1999 on March 25th after exhausting all of his appeals. So
That's pretty
pretty
fast.
fast. Yeah, it was like what,
Yeah.
12 years? They fucking did it.
Okay.
It's Virginia, you know. They probably don't have that many inmates on death row and they're probably like super stoked to kill them. So, you got to go
Yeah,
somewhere
for
like
sure.
California where there's so many that like it's never going to happen, you know. Just more how to get away or how to not get murdered by the
Mhm.
state with Cindy. Anyway, so that's the story. Weird like double double backstabbing and like yeah, crazy shit.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was very eventful. I can't get over the grabbing of the heart.
I know. It's so dumb and like gross. But
That's dumb. Yeah.
yeah. Anyway.
Wow.
All
What a
right.
scummy ass pretend mobster dude.
I
Going down.
know. What a piece of shit. Yep. So there it is. Number one. We'll do
Okay.
number. We'll do number two soon.
Mm-hmm.
A little poo
Yes.
humor.
Poo humor.
Episode number 2 will be out soon. I hope you all enjoyed these first 2 stories. This is actually like a better topic than like who knew that kind of case was going to come from this, you know?
No, yeah, I know there's like there's not a lot, but what there is are very like eventful and
Yeah,
punchy.
we got some juicy ones in there. Yeah,
Also, Dick Cheney didn't kill that guy technically, but he fits in here a
he
little bit.
kind of does.
He's an attempted murder by Dick
It
Cheney, remember?
was.
So, yeah.
Yes, yes. He's murdered so many other people. It doesn't matter. It's just
Yeah, that's
by
true. He is
proxy.
a murderer,
Yes,
but just not in that case.
not in that case, but we could kind of like quilt it together. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, maybe I've always wanted to do like murderers in the sense of like war crimes and atrocities.
yeah, that would be.
That
Oof,
could be
oof.
we would get too mad. We would get too red in the face.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um. All right. Well, I don't know what else. Is that it?
That's it. I'm gonna go back to sleep after this.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
Hmm.
Congratulations again, Diva.
Thank you.
Everybody send her all your well wishes and happy birthday. Yeah,
Yeah.
yay.
Yay.
And we'll record again soon, guys. And until then,
Stay.
off our
Blessed.
list.
So.